Hi everyone, welcome back to the We Night YouTube channel. My name is Jennifer Dominic and I am the founder of We Night. I am also going to be your interviewer for today. For those of you joining us for the first time, We Night is a social enterprise and we share the career paths of people who either have a background in STEM or perhaps do not have a background in STEM but are currently working in a STEM related industry. So without further ado, let's meet our guest for today. Good morning. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. How are you feeling?
I'm good, thank you. Happy Friday, as we're recording this on a Friday.
Yes, we are, on a Friday morning. So without further ado, let's go ahead and introduce you to all our viewers. So tell us who you are and what you're currently doing.
So hi everyone, my name is Jo Bullen and I'm responsible for UK corporate affairs at MSD in the UK, which means that I'm responsible for all our policy, communications and social and digital media.
Wow, that's quite a range of things. So I'm really interested in understanding a little bit about what a day in the life of what you do looks like.
Okay, so when I was thinking about a typical day, one of the perhaps joys of my job is that it is so varied because of the vast nature of dealing with the external environment, but also the internal environment. So I thought it might be good to pick on a recent day, which was the 8th of September. And that day I was looking at my diary, and forgive me if I take a little peek down at my notes, but that morning first of all I kicked off with a meeting of experts in our company who are responsible for quite a complex commercial policy issue that we're having to deal with our industry stakeholders, but also government and officials, and we talked around that and what we would be doing. That day, then, we also had our town hall, and my team are responsible for organising those town halls. But that day I happened to be a panellist because we were talking about diversity and inclusion, and that's something that's very important to me in respect of my role. I sponsor our MSD Rainbow Alliance, which is one of our employee business resource groups that is about ensuring that everyone in our company has a voice and is able to be who they are at MSD. I then went into a series of one-to-one meetings, so development conversations, check-in conversations with my team. That day followed with a leaders call. So we were lucky enough to hear from our leaders in terms of how we need to be really responsible and taking account of development within our organisation, real focus on our people as managers. I then took part in another aspect of my role, which is media communications and planning. So we had a big global call about that. What does that look like for the future? What have we got coming up that we need to be thinking about? And then on that day, we'd heard the sad news that the Queen was unwell. So we had to take a decision that day, and it was my responsibility to think about, okay, in the event of something culturally very significant to the UK, how would we manage that from an internal employee communications perspective, but then also from our social media channels? So we planned for the event of her passing, and then obviously that evening we had to move into sadly into implementation of that, and I guess that's a good insight into my day. It kind of really covers a mixture of kind of leadership, complex policy issues, employee engagement, and then, really focusing on people and talent development, and what's important to me as well, that diversity and inclusion piece.
Wow, that is a day.
Yeah, that's the day.
What I start thinking about then, if I'm watching this, it sounds really exciting. How does the STEM industry, science, technology, engineering, and maths, feature into the industry you work in, and then as such the role that you're playing in this industry as well?
Yeah. So the role of my corporate affairs team, the role of anyone who is in policy and communications in the pharmaceutical industry, for example, is to be able to explain science and translate science to a lay audience. So, and that lay audience might be policymakers, it might be politicians, it could be the media, it could be anyone who's kind of operating in that external environment.
I think maybe that's a perfect moment to go back to basics. Let's go back to the version of Joe who thought, okay, I think I might be interested in something like this, and this may be something I want to go into. How straightforward was your thinking process, or did you go down an adventurous roller coaster of a pathway to arrive at your role? So take us back to the beginning.
Yeah, so as a teenager, I was politically active. I was very, very interested in politics. And I studied government relations A-level, which led me to university. Originally, I studied economic and social history. I'm going to be honest, largely because my parents at the time didn't think doing a politics degree was a good idea. They didn't understand where it might lead. And after a term of understanding that my economic and social history degrees was more likely to involve studying turnips and the history of farming, I switched to my passion, really, which was studying politics, and in my second and third years, because you're able to do that. I was doing a modular degree. One of the courses that I took at university was about the lobbying industry, which was in its early stages at that stage. And one of my professors had written a book about the lobbying industry. And I was very taken about that, because it was really all about how the interplay around the media, policy, Westminster, Whitehall, the different stakeholders, the think tanks, and it's, how do you influence to get a positive outcome for an organisation? That could be a charitable organisation, it could be a large corporate organisation.
What experiences have you seen in terms of diversity, equity and inclusion in your experience so far, and where do you see that going within the industry?
Yeah, so I'm very motivated to do the role that I do for the Rainbow Alliance, because I feel very strongly that whatever element of society that you come from, whoever you are, you deserve to have an equal voice, an equal role in our society, and therefore in our company. And that when you come to work, it's really, really important that you can be who you are, and that you are treated equally to every single employee within our organisation, no matter what your background. So that's what motivates me. And what's been really wonderful to see actually at MSD is that from a Rainbow Alliance perspective, that's really grown in the last 3 years in terms of the membership, the support for it, and actually its ability to have an impact. So this year, the company had a very large presence at London Pride, and that might be seen as a celebration in some ways. And yes, it is. It's a celebration of the progress that has been made. If you are a member of the LGBTQ plus community, but also it was really important to see that there was that support within our organisation for our LGBTQ plus colleagues. I'm really hopeful. I'm really positive about the momentum we have, particularly in the UK, to support our employees, no matter what their background, no matter what their orientation, that we will be making good progress. We most recently had a meeting that involved all our colleagues who represent our employee business resource groups, where we had a really good hard look at ourselves in terms of where we sit as an organisation and the progress that we're making. And on the basis of that meeting, we settled on a number in terms of where we are on an external matrix in terms of the progress we're making.
So, Jo, maybe another question I'd ask then is, in terms of sharing your story and sharing your journey, of course, thank you for taking the time to do so. What do you hope someone watching this may gain from hearing about your experiences, your choices that you've made today that you may have not already communicated?
So I've definitely learned along the way in terms of my job. There isn't, I did a politics degree, and there are, of course, communications and marketing degrees, but plenty of people come into a corporate affairs role without a formal training in what we do. We learn along the way by experimenting and testing and using a fair degree of common sense, but also over time, of course, applying skills. And I think I would encourage anyone who has watched this or listened to this, don't think that you always have to know how to do the role that you're aspiring to do. You don't need to be able to do 100% of it. Be able to think, could I confidently do 40, 60% of that? That's quite a broad range, I appreciate. But, you know, when I look at that skills list they're representing, you know, I'm probably some way of the way there. But are there other skills I'm pretty confident I can learn and pick up on the way? But then I would really encourage you to think, no, I'm going to apply, or that I'm going to go and perhaps pick up one or two of those skills. I'm going to find an opportunity to find a mentor who might, you know, find an experience. But I would say, you know, don't forget to learn along the way. Be a bit brave in terms of what you think you want to do, and also think that there are all sorts of routes to land where you ultimately want to land, and that each experience can be valuable.
Thanks, Jo. Much appreciated. And with that, in the future, what interest do you think you're going to continue to kind of push forward for, and how do you think that might relate to career choices?
So that's a really interesting question, and probably the one that I potentially find most difficult. So I know that I will continue to be a champion for diversity, equity, and inclusion. That is an important part of who I am and what matters to me. And so in any future role, the opportunity to be able to continue to champion for my colleagues, my employees, that will always have to play a part in any role that I have in the future. So wherever I can be, where we're really, the role that I'm in the future, where we can show that we're having an impact there with patients and the wider community will be important to me.
Thank you, Jo. Really appreciated.
No problem at all.